finally joined TikTok for supply chain insights. It stayed for the pasta recipes. Let's get to it.
With all this ass, double cheeked up on a Thursday afternoon.
Welcome. Another fabulous episode of IBF On Demand. I'm your having fun and not so humble host, Eric Wilson. You can find me at Eric at IBF.org. That's Eric at IBF.org. I'm actually just back from VidCon with my daughter about a week or so ago. I just got back. Got some exciting news for everybody. I discovered I'm one of several people on the internets. And you can actually find me there as well. Find me on LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, Discord, Reddit, Twitch, wherever you get your podcast, wherever you're getting this, wherever you can find my handle, you'll be able to find me then as well. You can also find these people at many of those socials. Arkiva, driving business transformation by solving what others cannot. Thank you, Arkiva, for being a wonderful sponsor for this podcast. Companies went from brick and mortar to e-commerce and omnichannel, and each step of the way, each one had unique challenges and unique issues. Now we have viral apps that are creating a brand new set of challenges. These are not just dance crazes, but influencers with millions of followers selling a product, giving life to new products, and causing chaos along the way. It's hard enough to chase trends, but now we need to start reacting to viral clips. And it's even more than that. We're now marketing on these apps, but it's more than that. We're even selling on these apps now as well. To understand any of this, that's the reason I brought in the new guest. Tara is the vice president for supply chain and Dude Wipes. They have definitely seen growth in TikTok and a lot of social media. She oversees the inventory planning, forecasting for Dude Wipes. Her supply chain expertise ranges from optimization and strategy to scaling high growth organization. Her prior experiences include California Farms and Accenture Strategy. She earned a BBA from the University of Michigan, Ross School of Business. Help me welcome Tara. So it's great seeing you, Tara. We haven't seen each other since Scottsdale.
Yeah, it's been some time. It's been super fun. A lot changing at Dude. A lot of growth. But yeah, I'm glad to be back. Thank you.
So how's TikTok working for you? Still hanging out on TikTok and creating the dance crazes, whatever you do over there?
I mean, I personally am not making the dance crazes. But yes, I am dealing with TikTok. It's still an unpredictable channel. We're still seeing some interesting growth in certain SKUs and then slow down in other SKUs. So we're just trying to manage it the best we can right now.
Well, to that point, I mean, for a lot of the audience who aren't exactly your generation and confused about TikTok, but they understand, yeah, there's people out there buying things. Those platforms, or any of those Lori platforms, they seem really unpredictable. I mean, what was kind of the initial approach to Lori starting to try to plan in them, or was there an approach and you're just trying to make it up and catch up as you went?
Yeah, I mean, it's unpredictable. Like, if we kind of look at when TikTok Shop started, it's unpredictable because it's so new. And TikTok Shop launched in September of 2023, so pretty recent. And it was a softer launch. They only got a few brands. Dude started selling to them in February of 2024. And so we really had no data to go off of. And so dealing with that, I mean, what do you do in a new channel that's completely different than anything you've done before? It's not a retailer. It's kind of e-commerce, but yeah, I mean, having that newness is definitely a big question.
Okay, so for the ignorant audience out there, and I'm including myself in this, I'm getting there. I'm learning TikTok. I have a TikTok now, by the way, FYI. So,
amazing. I would encourage everyone who's trying to like work on that channel to definitely get one just to learn about it. Like,
hey, we're going to do
I get it for my
content
dude
on it.
account.
We're going to do more now. We're
Yeah.
going to do content, but that's a whole different topic. I'll have you back on for that one. But
Okay.
for people who don't understand the ignorance out there, with it, we're looking at almost like an Amazon marketplace in TikTok. So, I mean,
Yeah.
you can market and sell items now and either do a 1PL, 3PL distribution as far as with TikTok. It is a marketplace, in essence, is what it is becoming now for an entire generation. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, it's a marketplace in the sense that you can manage it in different ways too. And so TikTok itself has its own warehouses. You can ship product there, and they have like virtual warehouses too. So I guess, yeah, it is kind of like e-commerce, but it is something that you have to treat a little bit differently.
So what we're doing is we're selling products. We're now using. I mean, there's influencers that will, but companies themselves, right, dude, is marketing using that platform and their own personalities. I think it's even your CEO or something that is out there marketing the products and going to a marketplace where people are purchasing and having offers that are only available with inside that platform, but it's also builds brand. So I'm just kind of level setting the audience of exactly what is that you're doing. That it is a revolutionary, but it is where we're going too. People have to understand that.
Yeah, so TikTok, you can definitely, you can sell through different ways on TikTok. So, right, what you're saying, like the traditional method, like Dude has our own account. We can, advertise using the Dude Wipes account. Hey, buy this product, and then we'll link them to like TikTok Shop and like figure out how to buy from there. But there are these other ways called like leveraging affiliates. So these are people who are like, if you think about like influencers, they're affiliates who can opt in to buy or opt in to sell your product. And so that's a completely different channel. And at the end of the day, you don't really know who's opting into sell Dude Wipes products. Like we tap into these affiliate groups that have like certain themes to them, but within those groups, like people can opt in to Dude or not. And we don't have control over that. So there's that type of angle. There's also like, if you have a direct influencer, you can say, hey, I want this specific affiliate, work with them. And that will be more of like a traditional influencer model. But there is a lot of like different avenues that you can sell on TikTok. It's not just, hey, that's my retailer, I'm going to market on there. It's like, all right, which channel you want to market in? How are you going to do it? What's going to go viral? There are all these questions that create this like unpredictability.
So what parts of this process then are under because we're all about planning and control and supply chain and demand forecasting. How much of this is under your control? And then what simply are you just reacting then to what's happening in that market?
Yeah. So when you sell in TikTok, you can fulfill with TikTok. So that means you can store inventory. It's kind of like a consignment model. You send inventory to TikTok warehouses, and then from there, TikTok will fulfill it. Another way is you can fulfill within your own warehouse. So you don't sell inventory to TikTok, and then you fulfill to TikTok through your own warehouse or like maybe a 3PL who can fulfill for you. And so for us, with either of those models, you have control over the inventory that's available. You don't have a lot of control over the demand. Like you don't know when things are going to spike, but you really have control in saying, if you do the fulfill by TikTok, you have control to say, how much inventory do I want to store in TikTok warehouses? How am I going to monitor that inventory? How am I going to make sure I have enough? What flags do I need to put in place if I have too little? And so at that point, it actually becomes more of like a supply planning operations game where the demand planner is monitoring this stuff, but they have to work so closely with those two teams to make sure they have enough inventory at the warehouse.
So you're still looking at the uncertainty, which is huge. You're still managing the uncertainty with inventory, buffers, risk, mitigation strategy. So you're managing the supply and hoping or estimating the demand. Sounds like a traditional model, really, just a lot more complications in it.
Yeah, I mean, it is a traditional, like at the end of the day, planning is you still got to use consumption. You still got to know how much inventory is there. But you own how much inventory is going to be stored at that warehouse. So if something goes viral, it's on you to like replenish that. It's, for example, if you're like, fulfilling with Target or Walmart, it's on them to say, oh, hey, my sales are higher than expected. I need to order a lot more. And so there's a bit more of like time lag. Whereas TikTok, you don't have that anymore. You have to be reacting very quickly.
So I see a lot of similarities between the typical e-commerce, some of the retail, but more like the traditional e-commerce that people are familiar with. Is there any other like major differences looking at these type of platforms versus the traditional e-commerce model, or you pretty much hit most of the similarities and differences there?
I think the key difference, and I mean, Amazon does have this as a type of model, is like this consignment inventory.
Yeah.
So when we send inventory to TikTok to their warehouses, dude still owns them, and we don't recognize a sale until it's consumed. So your sales and your consumption happens at the same time. I mean, Amazon does do that in some cases. It depends what type of model you have with them. But TikTok does not. I mean, at this point, that's your only option.
I think one of the biggest difference that I see is, I mean, like on an Amazon, you have a page that's a selling page, where here you have a whole platform's a selling platform, and it based on how many shares and how many likes and what the algorithms pick up and who is the influencer, what kind of bandwidth they have as far as being able to influence others. So I mean, that is like, so you're probably looking at different variables for the forecasting. Where I looked at page views and comments, you're going to be looking at something totally different in your world.
Yeah, that's a really good point too. Like with Amazon, for example, or other e-commerce, like there's SEO, there's like marketing, like paid advertising that you can do. And TikTok has a little bit of that, but it is highly, highly dependent on people's algorithm and an individual's algorithm too. And so you don't, in some cases, like we can talk to the marketing team and see, hey, how much spend are you putting in SEO? How much paid advertising are you doing in Amazon? Which SKUs? Whereas in TikTok, like in the TikTok shop platform, like on that page, like we do not have control over where our SKUs are sitting when someone goes to that page. So it could be super high on someone's list. It could be medium, low, but like at the end of the day, it really depends on that individual's algorithm and how they're reacting to things that they see. If they really like, poop jokes, like dude wipe stuff, like maybe dude wipes will come up really early. But if they're definitely like on the opposite end of that, like it might not even show up, and you don't know.
So are you doing a lot more demand sensing then, as far as being able to predict and react to demand, opposed to longer term type forecasting? Yes. Because you have less control. You need to understand, hey, this is going viral, or hey, we see a lot more shares with this person's post. This may, end up causing some inventory hits.
Yeah, definitely like a lot closer knit to demand sensing. Like in traditional models, you have a lag of a week. You can see the consumption data. You can see like the Nielsen or IRI data every month. But with TikTok, you could view that daily. Wow. So, I mean, definitely more demand sensing. But I would say we are working way more with our marketing teams and the teams that manage TikTok a lot more closely than we would have done in the past, because they're going to know when things are going viral. They're flagging that. I mean, they are the sales teams at the end of the day. Like even a few weeks ago, there was a SKU that they're like, hey, this is topping off. I don't know what's going on, but like, guys, we got to get more inventory there. And so we're definitely like trying to like hold hands in every step of the process with that team, because they provide the insights as well, and they're closely monitoring that too.
That's interesting. Looking at the social media marketing as a part of your sales team. I mean, I like the way that.
Yeah.
This kind of leads to a kind of a bigger problem or challenge, because I mean, you guys saw a marketplace, and you have definitely grown in that market, like 400-500%, whatever it may be, an outrageous growth in that marketplace. But overall, you've seen great. I mean, Dude Wipes is a great product. I mean, it's the best product, pants down. So with that, you are a fast growing company. So even outside of TikTok, you have to be able to plan in a fast growing type of environment. So how do you adapt your forecast and planning process when, I mean, historic data is a lot less reliable? You can't really look at that past data and say, yeah, that's what we're going to keep doing, because you keep doing more and more. How do you adapt to that?
Yeah, I mean, there are a few ways to adapt to that. I think like when I first started at Dude, it was in 2022 or 2021. Sorry, 2021. I'm like, I have to remember. And
2020 to 2023 is all a blur for all of us. Don't feel bad.
So my historical data was from the pandemic toilet paper spikes, right? So like you could just imagine like that data was so skewed, so different. And we definitely had to adapt. So traditionally, if you have a pretty stable product, you're going to look at year over year. How do my trends look year over year? Seasonality, bake in some growth there, and then you're like set. But in a high growth company, you got to look at it month over month. How is my consumption changing every single month? Am I seeing increases, decreases? Like you do have a sense of seasonality, but you kind of have to like sift through the noise of potential upticks from like, you know, whether in our case, toilet paper out of stocks, or upticks from things going viral. And you're like, well, I don't know if that's going to happen again. Like, how do I normalize this? So I would encourage everyone to look at that month to month or even week to week type of data to drive your demand in your forecast. But another one is when you're in such a high growth industry or high growth company, like you really have to hold hands with your finance team, with your supply planning, demand planning teams. And they all have to kind of come together and say, okay, what is our process to how we're going to approve forecasts going forward, how we're going to buy inventory to those forecasts. And that is like very key because finance is going to want to focus on their working capital, like supply planning is going to want to focus on inventory, demand planning wants to focus on their accuracy and revenue. And so I think it's really key to create a process early on where all those teams are kind of connecting in a cyclical way to go through approvals, make sure they're all aligned.
Okay. Is there more shifting opposed? Because since we're looking at month to month, but even then we're adjusting history or not trusting all the history we have because, yeah, that went viral that month. It's not going to do it again this month. Is there more of a shift towards consumer sentiment, consumer behaviors, understanding that consumer more? Are you bringing that type of information in then as well?
Yeah. I mean, we bring the consumer behaviors in a bit, and that's more of like a big picture, high level year-over-year growth for the company. So that is part of it, but it's also looking at like competitor data, people who have been, or like brands that have been in the aisles longer than you have, so you can see like how they're doing year over year, and using that data to leverage, okay, well, we're high growth, so, you know, maybe we're 5% of where this other brand is at, but we're closing the gap. So you can kind of leverage that too of saying, well, maybe next year will be 10% compared to them. So I would definitely leverage like other brands and how they're growing, how they've taken over the category and where you're going to encroach on them too.
Okay. So then how do you structure collaboration then? You mentioned finance, you mentioned supply, you mentioned marketing, as kind of that sales team out there. How do you structure collaboration between demand, supply, finance, everyone I just talked about, and can you pivot quickly when the outlook changes because things are changing so quickly in that fast-paced environment you have?
Yeah, so at Dude, we have demand planning kind of drive all the changes. So they meet with each sales team on a monthly basis to say, hey, this is our forecast. What changes do we think, like demand will come in with change recommendations, sales will come in with change recommendations, and they'll do that on a monthly basis together. Then demand will say, okay, I've solidified these with sales. I got alignment from them. We're understanding if there's any marketing or promotions happening. And then they send that over to finance for finance to digest that data and say, okay, cool. This is our new revenue goal. This is our new plan. You have like a budget for the year, but you also need to make sure that when demand planning updates data, that they're also aligning with that as well. And then supply planning uses both those financial goals and the demand plan to say, hey, how much inventory do I need? Do I need to increase my forecast, decrease it? And then submits that to finance too to make sure everyone's aligned.
Okay, well, it sounds a familiar process, and that
Yeah.
just done a little bit different. So to that point, I mean, I hear feedback a lot of times when people talk about S&op, IBP. It doesn't work in fast-moving consumer goods or a company that is in the such of the growth that you're experiencing. We're just holding on. You can't do S&op in these environments. Did you find that you can't do S&op, or is it sounded like a little bit what you were describing was an S&op process?
No, it is an S&op. We do S&op.
That's what it sounded like to me. It sounded like S&op.
I did describe an S&op process. You are right. And we do IBP too. And I think this is my opinion, right? But like, those are the fundamentals to planning. If you're a high growth company, like, you can still, it's a transparent process, right? It's just about making teams aware, making sure you're aligned. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're high growth or not. Like, you still need those checks and balances in place, because, the worst case scenario is supply planner buys way too much inventory, and now you don't have enough cash to support your business. So, or the other end of it, they don't buy enough and you can't get the revenue you promised. So regardless, like, you still need, whether you want to call it S&op or not, you still need to have those checks and balances in place in any business you're in.
See, I would agree with what you're saying. So for you doubters out there who think you can't do this in a fast moving consumer good, here's proof.
Yeah.
Dude's doing it.
Yeah. You got supply chain. We definitely get some light shit on us when things aren't working well. But these are the methods to ensure that, what to make things work well. And then when things don't, you're saying, well, let's look back. Let's see what we aligned on. You have to have that in place to make sure that your company is also just has faith in your supply chain team. And that helps build rapport with them too.
Well, I think the other thing you said, it's kind of driven by demand as well. I mean, so they're the unbiased, from what I've talked to you in the past and here now, they're that unbiased function that's really bringing the different functions together to drive to a business decision.
Yeah. I would completely agree. So.
Okay. We got time for probably one more question. So You started in 2021 during the foggy era of COVID. You started 2024. You guys went TikTok and now gone viral, and you've experienced this rapid growth. I mean, I forget what it is. It's like 400%, whatever it is. If you know the number, go ahead. But whatever the number of growth you've experienced. But this is the situation you're in. You put together processes. If you had it to do it over again, what advice would you give to the person just starting in 2021? You say, hey, this is really what we need to have in place that seems to work, or these are some things we need to consider. What's some things you'd do over?
Yeah, I would put in the supply planning and finance checks and balance right away.
So you do an S&op earlier, huh?
I tried to implement S&op pretty early, but I think one thing we missed was, hey, I'm going to send my supply plan and my inventory spend forecast over to finance for that approval. And I think we could have done that a lot earlier in the process. I mean, I'm not saying that there were any crazy issues or anything that happened, but if I were to do that again, I'd put that in place immediately, because I would also want to make sure that my inventory plan is aligning with our cash goals, is aligning with our working capital goals. And so that's a super easy thing to do. You're submitting a forecast to your suppliers or your manufacturing team anyways. Why not just make finance part of that process early on?
Wonderful. So, well, there you go. Well, I want to thank you very much. Hopefully it was informative. I enjoyed the conversation. So hopefully everyone else did it as much as I did. They enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah. I mean, it's great talking to you, and I always appreciate all your resources. And so thanks. Yeah.
I'm sure I'm going to see you on TikTok in the future.
You might. Me and Renee do have a little video that dude did make of us. I don't think it went viral, but we tried. We tried one day. So
I said I'm working on something right now, and I'll have you back on TikTok doing some supply chain things, because that's what they're dying for on TikTok. I just know they are. So
yeah, everyone wants to know. When you talk about supply chain problems, they want to know what that means,
Exactly. So I'm going to create it. Yeah, we're good. All righty. So thank you very much.
All right. Thanks so much, Eric. Have a great one.
All righty. Bye.
Bye.
Not all demand is predictable, and that's okay. Sometimes, guess what? The answer isn't always a forecast. Sometimes the answer is mitigating and buffering for that uncertainty. It's recognizing and planning uncertainty instead of trying to fight it or even predict it with precision. Control what you can. We have things we can do to mitigate risk: buffers, lead times, decision trees, safety stock. Safety stock is a strategy to help buffer for that uncertainty. And consistent inventory reviews remain key, even in the completely crazy world of a TikTok environment. Ultimately, structure drives stability as well, even when forecasts are unknown or uncertain. We've seen a place for S&op meetings. S&op can live in a fast-moving consumer good or a fast-growth type of organization. Meetings, S&op type meetings and reviews create cross-functional clarity. We actually see consensus is aligned to or correlated to agility, even if everyone's moving in the wrong direction. As we feed new information in almost real time, everyone can move together towards a new direction. And planners can be or should be those strategic navigators. In a world of unpredictability, they bring the structure. They bring the insights. They bring the calm to the chaos. So there is a role for demand out there. Well, that's a wrap. I'm not saying I'm famous on TikTok or anything, but I got 3 bots to follow me. Add that to the 12 people probably watching this. I have tens and tens of followers now. And if you want to find me, you can find me once again on LinkedIn, YouTube, Reddit, TikTok, wherever you is. You could also email me. Go old school. I'd love to hear from you. You can find me at eric@ibf.org. That's eric@ibf.org. I want to thank our sponsor, a very special sponsor. Been around for over a decade. I've been working with them. Arkiva, driving business transformation by solving what others cannot. A great company, no matter what you're working on. Check them out, Arkiva. And I'd love, I said, to hear from you then as well. I got a lot of things in the work. We do a lot for organizations. If you have questions as an organization, reach out to me. If you're looking to be able to help me with some information going forward, and you have some advice, reach out to me. Whatever your problem, whatever your needs are, from an IBF perspective or me personally, I'm happy to help. Happy to work with you in developing and understanding what your S&op, what your demand planning process is. Happy to provide some insights then as well. We're all about fostering the growth of our field, and we're all in this together. And remember, when things get messy, don't forget. And with today's guest and my usual endings, I could go a lot of different ways with this. I'm just going to leave it here.